Hi guys, welcome to the channel of love. Okay, this is our study group and I would like to read the book How to Raise Your Own Salary by Napoleon Hill. In the description box I'm going to attach a little video that I watched that kind of led me to this book because I wasn't aware that this book was out. This was a few years back now. Anyway, it's a really good book. It's the interview that took place between Andrew Carnegie and Napoleon Hill. Now, the book that I studied was Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, but this is kind of like how it came about to Napoleon Hill actually being commissioned to kind of write that book with the principles of success in mind. Okay, so I'm going to read this book. It is a conversation between Napoleon Hill and Andrew Carnegie. Have a look at this page here. This is who we're talking about. This is Andrew Carnegie. Andrew Carnegie, the founder of the United States Steel Corporation, whose generous donations made possible the Carnegie Public Libraries throughout the nation, sponsor of Napoleon Hill, through whom he gave the world the first practical philosophy of success based upon Mr. Carnegie's lifetime experience. It was this philosophy that enabled him to advance himself from day labourer to fame and fortune as the greatest industrialist of his time. Here's Napoleon Hill, because these are the two chappies who are having the conversation in this book. Chosen by Andrew Carnegie to organise the science of success based upon the lifetime experiences of Mr. Carnegie and more than 500 other top-ranking business and professional men who collaborated at Mr. Carnegie's request in perfecting this philosophy, which has brought success to millions of people throughout the world. Okay. Now, the next page, I don't want to miss these bits. It's a letter here from S. Lee Braxton, the Mayor of Whiteville. Okay, so from the city of Whiteville, North Carolina, April 14, 1953. Office of the Mayor. Mr. W. Clement Stone, General Manager, Napoleon Hill Associates, Chicago, Illinois. My dear Mr. Stone, firstly, may I congratulate you on your foresight in connecting with your far-reaching plan to make the Napoleon Hill success philosophy available to people throughout the nation. I know something of the potential power of this philosophy because it helped me to master one of the most terrific enemies of man, poverty. My father was a village blacksmith and I am the 10th child in a family of 12. So you might say that I became acquainted with poverty early in life. By hard struggle, I managed to get through the 6th grade in school. I shined shoes, delivered groceries, sold newspapers, worked in a hosiery mill, washed automobiles, served as a mechanic's helper, and later as mechanic and shop foreman. The year before I studied Napoleon Hill's Science of Success philosophy, my home was advertised for sale under a mortgage, and I turned the tide in my financial affairs on a scale which permitted me to retire from business 10 years later. I had planned to retire at the age of 50, but I was able to do so at the age of 44, and I am now doing the things I always wanted to do, with enough years ahead of me, I hope, to permit me to contribute in my small way towards making this a better world in which to live. Toward this end, may I again repeat that I have already told Napoleon Hill, namely, that I am at your service in furthering the great work you have undertaken in taking his success philosophy to the people by radio, talking pictures, home study courses, and the many success books Napoleon has written. As recent as 1952, I received an inspiration from Napoleon Hill's philosophy, which has developed into a lecture I have been called upon to give from the Atlantic to the Pacific including 7 times in my hometown. The science of the success philosophy is basic, and when applied it will help anyone, whether he be a clergyman, banker, baker or candlestick maker. Very cordially yours, S. L. Braxton, Mayor of Whiteville. It says underneath, North Carolina's most progressive small city. Okay, here we are then. That was the letter that was wrote to W. Clement Stone. So How to Raise Your Own Salary by Dr. Napoleon Hill. He's the author of Think and Grow Rich, Law of Success, How to Sell Your Way Through Life, Master Keys, Key to Riches, Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude, co-authored with W. Clement Stone, Grow Rich with Peace of Mind, You Can Work Your Own Miracles, PMA Science of Success course. The books written by Dr. Napoleon Hill have inspired millions of people in all parts of the world, and the principles Dr. Hill discovered are as practical today as when he had his first interview with Andrew Carnegie in 1908. Reading this book will inspire you to understand the great benefits from Hill's conversations with the great industrialist Andrew Carnegie, who came to the United States from Scotland and began working as a 13-year-old lad at wages of $1.20 per week. The success formula presented in How to Raise Your Own Salary will prove to you that whatever the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve. Okay, so the contents of How to Raise Your Own Salary. The famous success formula of a great American industrialist who taught thousands of people how to increase their incomes. Okay, we have these little quotes here. This one says, the man who can get the job done without excuses is on the highway to self-advancement. Let's read the publisher's introduction. So the story behind this volume. Napoleon Hill gives you in How to Raise Your Own Salary all 17 principles of success in a single volume, just as they were taught to him in person by Andrew Carnegie and other successful men who gave freely of their time and experience. Napoleon Hill tells you the secret of how to win riches, power, prestige. He tells how the average man may learn to use the secrets of America's greatest and richest men. In this book, you will discover the answer to all of your problems, whether you are seeking to increase your income or searching only for peace of mind, happiness, harmony in your home or place of occupation. You have here not only the means of making more money, but a philosophy of success through which you may set your own goal in life and achieve it, just as thousands of others have done. Read the probing questions Dr. Hill asked of Andrew Carnegie. Profit by the philanthropist's frank, illuminating statements. How he made his money. This inspiring writer made it his life's work to trace these answers. He found that other men agreed. At last, Napoleon Hill knew he had made a sensational discovery, that the application of certain fundamental principles would ensure success to everyone who made use of them. The entire secret of success is written down in How to Raise Your Own Salary. This edition has been revised and modernised. With illuminating pen and purpose, Dr. Hill writes from his intimate knowledge of and association with the world's wealthiest men. He found and gives you the true philosophy upon which all lasting success is built. In the Still King's own words, Napoleon Hill records his personal interviews with Carnegie, setting down each question and answer. The entire law, consisting of 17 steps, is condensed in this volume and gives a master plan to win success. The theory that the road to wealth is hard and narrow is dead as a doornail. You'll know it for the broad, smooth, paved highway it is for those who apply the 17 principles in the science of success. That promotion will look easy. That top job will not look so far away. If you, like thousands of other men and women, have dreams of retiring someday, but find your goal as far away as it was 5, 10, 15 years ago, act now. Start by deciding how much money you need for retirement, for a new house, a car, son's education. We take you now to the private study of Andrew Carnegie, where Napoleon Hill is taking his first lesson on success. The Napoleon Hill Foundation, W. Clement Stone. We have a reminder here, remember that the quality of service you render, plus the quantity, plus the mental attitude in which you render it, determines the sort of job you hold and the amount of pay you receive. Napoleon Hill. Okay, so that's the intro to the book. Chapter 1 is Develop Definiteness of Purpose. Okay. Chapter 1, Develop Definiteness of Purpose. Okay, guys, there is a conversation going on here between Hill and Carnegie. We start off with Hill. Mr. Carnegie, I would like to have you go back to the beginning of your career and describe to me, step by step, the principles of achievement through which you began without money, without great influence, and with but little schooling, and lifted yourself into a position of great affluence and wealth. Inasmuch I am requesting this information in behalf of men and women who have neither the time nor the opportunity to acquire knowledge of the rules of success from those who have been successful, I ask that you forgo all formalities and speak to me plainly and frankly in terms that any person of average intelligence may understand. Carnegie. Very well, I shall describe the rules of personal achievement, which have been responsible for my own accomplishments, but I do so on condition that you organise these rules of human relationship into a philosophy that will be available to every person who has the ambition to master and use them, and use it. What I'm asking you to do is one of the constructive means I have for the distribution of my fortune. The money I have accumulated I will give away in due time through sources that will do the least amount of harm and the greatest possible good. But my real wealth, that portion of it which I wish to donate for the good of mankind, consists of the principles of personal achievement, which I am entrusting to you. In lending you my aid in the organisation of the rules of personal achievement, I do so with the understanding that you will carry on a continuous research until you shall have compared my own experiences with the experience of other men who have been recognised as successes in many fields of endeavour, in order that you give the world a success philosophy of sufficient flexibility that it will serve the needs of all people, regardless of their calling or purpose in life. A sound philosophy of individual achievement must present a clear understanding of the principles that bring success and those that lead to failure. Hill. Your conditions are accepted, Mr. Carnegie, and you may rest assured, sir, that I will never stop until the job has been finished, regardless of the time required. Your faith in my ability to do the job is all the inspiration I need to ensure my carrying on until I finish. Will you begin now and give me an understandable analysis of all the principles of success which you have used in your personal advancement? Carnegie. To begin with, let me state that there are 17 major principles of success, and every person who attains the objective of his major goal in any undertaking must use some combination of these principles. We shall name first the most important of these principles. It stands at the head of the list of the 17 principles of achievement because no one has ever been known to succeed without applying it. You may call it the principle of definiteness of purpose. Study any person who is known to be a permanent success, and you will find that he has a definite major goal. He has a plan for the attainment of this goal. He devotes the major portion of his thoughts and his efforts to the attainment of this purpose. My own major purpose is that of making a marketing still. I conceived that purpose while working as a labourer. It became an obsession with me. I took it to bed with me at night, and I took it to work with me in the morning. My definite purpose became more than a mere wish. It became my burning desire. That is the only sort of definite purpose which seems to bring desired results. Emphasise through every means at your command the vast difference between a mere wish and a burning desire that has assumed the proportions of an obsession. Everyone wishes for better things in life, such as money, a good position, fame, and recognition. But most people never go far beyond the wishing stage. Men who know exactly what they want of life and are determined to get it do not stop with wishing. They intensify their wishes into a burning desire and back that desire with continuous effort based on a sound plan. It is necessary that they induce other people to cooperate in carrying out their plan. No great achievement is possible without the aid of other minds. Later on, I will explain how successful men go about inducing others to give their cooperation. Hill. Before you achieve the object of your definite major purpose, you had to have the use of money, a large amount of it, as operating capital. How did you manage to procure so huge an amount of money starting as you did, without money of your own? I wish you would answer this question in detail, Mr. Carnegie, because nearly every person arrives at this point, sooner or later, at which he might rise to great heights of achievement, if only he had the capital with which to make the right start. Carnegie. The first step from poverty to riches is the most difficult. It may simplify my statement if I tell you that all riches and all material things that anyone acquires through self-effort begin in the form of a clear, concise mental picture of the thing one seeks. When that picture grows or has been forced to the proportions of an obsession, it is taken over by the subconscious mind through some hidden law of nature which the wisest of men do not understand. From that point on, one is drawn, attracted, or guided in the direction of the physical equivalent of the mental picture. I shall come back to this subject of the subconscious mind many times before we finish, as it is one of the vital factors in connection with all outstanding achievements. Speaking of my own experience in taking the first step toward the achievement of my major purpose in life, I can describe it very clearly in a few words. First, I knew that I wanted to go into the making of steel. I whipped up that desire until it became a driving obsession with me. By this, I mean that my desire drove me day and night. Then I took the next step in carrying out my major purpose by selling my idea to another workman. He was a friend of mine who had no money, but he did have the mental capacity to recognise the value of my idea. and the courage to join with me. To join with me in carrying it out. Between the two of us, we induced two others, men with vision, courage, and initiative, to become interested in our plan for the making and marketing of steel. We four men forced the nucleus of a mastermind group, which we later increased until it consisted of more than 20 men, the men who helped me acquire my fortune, to say nothing of having made fortunes for themselves through our joint efforts. Through the combined enthusiasm of my mastermind group, we induced other men to supply the money necessary to carry out our plan. I will explain the mastermind principle in detail later on in our conversation. What we are concerned with now is the starting point from which I took off in pursuit of my major purpose. Hill. Am I to understand from you what you say, Mr. Carnegie, that definiteness of purpose gives one the benefit of a natural law in carrying out an objective? Carnegie. I wish you to observe other men who have been successful. As you go about your task of organising the philosophy of achievement, for you will learn from them that each of them began as I did, with a definite purpose and a definite plan for carrying it out. And another thing you will observe in connection with successful men, if you look closely enough, is the fact that they are succeeding with effort apparently no greater than that being used by others who are not succeeding. It has long been a mystery to some people why men with little or no schooling often succeed, while men with extensive schooling are failing all around them. Look carefully and you will discover that great successes are the result of understanding and the use of a positive mental attitude through which nature aids men in converting their aims and purposes into their physical and financial equivalent. Mental attitude is the quality of mind which gives power to one's thoughts and plans. Remember this fact and stress it in organising the philosophy of individual achievement. Hill. How long does it require, Mr. Carnegie, for one's mental attitude to begin attracting the physical and financial requisites of one's major purpose? Carnegie. That depends entirely upon the nature and extent of one's desires and the control one exercises over his mind in keeping it free from fear and doubt and self-imposed limitations. This sort of control comes through constant vigilance, wherein one keeps his mind free of all negative thoughts and leaves it open for the influx and the guidance of infinite intelligence. Definiteness of purpose involving $100, for example, might be translated into its financial equivalent in a few days, or even a few hours, or a few minutes, whereas desire for $1 million might call for considerably more time, depending to some extent on what one has to give in return for the $1 million. The best way I can think of to describe the time necessary for the translation of a definite purpose into its physical or financial equivalent can be accurately stated by determining the exact time necessary to deliver the service, or the equivalent in value one intends to give in return for the object of that purpose. Before I finish describing the 17 principles of achievement, I hope to be able to prove to you that there is a definite connection between giving and getting. Lack of understanding of this truth has brought many men to grief and failure. Hill. Am I to understand from what you say that natural law does not favour an attempt to get something for nothing? Carnegie. Everything connected with nature and natural laws is based upon cause and effect. Generally speaking, riches and material things that men get are the effects of some form of useful service they have rendered. My fortune did not come to me until I had delivered to others definite values in the form of large quantities of well-made steel. I wish you would emphasise this great truth when you take the rules of success to the world. Do not merely state that all success begins in the form of a definite major purpose, but emphasise the fact that the only known way of ensuring that a definite purpose will be carried out to a full realisation through the forces of natural law working through the minds of men is first establishing a cause for such realisation through useful service rendered in a spirit of harmony. Hill. How should one go about expressing the nature of one's definite major purpose? Is it sufficient merely to choose a purpose and hold it in one's mind, or is there some better way of translating this dominant purpose into its physical equivalent? Carnegie. That depends entirely upon the sort of mind one has. A well-disciplined mind is capable of holding and acting upon a definite major purpose without any form of outside or artificial aid. The undisciplined mind needs a crutch to lean upon while dealing with a definite major purpose. The best method to be followed by one with an undisciplined mind is that of writing down a complete description of one's major purpose and then adopting the habit of reading it aloud at least once every day. The act of writing down one's major purpose forces one to be specific as to its nature. The act of habitual reading fixes the nature of the purpose in the mind, where it can be picked up by the subconscious mind and acted upon. Hill. Do you follow the habit of writing down your major purpose, Mr. Carnegie? Carnegie. I followed that habit many years ago, while I was struggling to make the change from day labour to industrial management. Moreover, I went much farther than merely reading my written statement of my major purpose. I met with my mastermind group nightly, and we entered into a detailed round-table discussion for the purpose of building plans to carry out the object of my major goal. I heartily recommend this round-table habit. It is a habit I still follow. I believe you will find that all men of noteworthy achievement rely upon this habit of intimate discussion of their plans with their advisors and business associates. I learned years ago that no single mind is complete. When we come to the discussion of the mastermind principle, I will explain to you why two or more minds working together in harmony towards a definite objective have more power than a single mind. You will find cooperative evidence of this great truth throughout the Bible if you search carefully and understand that which you read. Jesus of Nazareth understood the principle of the mastermind and made effective use of it in his alliance with his disciples. That is where I got my first cue concerning this astounding law of nature. Hill. I hope you will pardon me for mentioning it, sir, but I have heard you severely criticised because you have accumulated a great fortune, while thousands of men who work for you have remained comparatively poor. Some people feel that you gained your fortune at the expense of those who worked for you. Will you explain your conception of the reason for the great difference between your financial achievements and those of the men who work for you? Carnegie. I am very glad you asked that question. Many others have asked the same question. I will answer you as I answered them. First, let me explain that I expect to give away practically every dollar of wealth I possess before I pass on. But let me hasten to say that I am finding it very difficult to give money where it will do more good than harm. It seems queer, but it is true, that men seldom profit by money except that which they earn. I would willingly give every dollar I have to the men who work for me if I could do so without doing them more injury than good. The good there is in the money consists of the use to which it is put, and not in the mere possession of it. Generally speaking, the man who earns his own money acquires, along with it, some of the necessary wisdom as to its constructive use. You ask me to explain the reason for the great difference between my financial achievements and the financial status of those who work for me. I can only answer you by saying that I have accumulated great wealth because I was willing to assume great responsibilities and deliver service of a widespread nature. Of the thousands of men who work for me, I hazard the guess that not more than a score of them would be willing to assume my responsibilities and work the hours that I work if I gave them all the money I possess for doing so. A few of the men who work for me have been willing to assume such responsibilities, and it is significant that every one of these is as rich as he desires to be. In a single year, I have paid such men as Charlie Schwab as much as $1 million for their services, most of which was paid for services they rendered over and above that which was required of them in connection with the earning of their regular salaries. But before I paid out such huge sums to these men, they had become practically indispensable to me by their willingness to assume responsibilities and relieve me of the load I was carrying. Men with this sort of mental attitude have a way of fixing their own incomes, and there is but little anyone else can do to stop them from getting their own price. I never set the wage scale of any man who works for me. Every man sets his own wage scale by the sort of service he renders, the quality and the quantity of his service, plus the mental attitude in which he renders it. Understand this truth, and you will know that there is no injustice in connection with the difference between the fortunes which men accumulate. Hill, I take it from what you say, Mr. Carnegie, that most of the men who work for you have no definite major purpose in life, for if they had, they too would be as rich as you. Is this correct? Carnegie, you are at liberty to talk with as many of my men as you please, but you will find out that the highest aim of a majority of them is to be able to hold the jobs they have. They are where they are, and they are drawing the wages they receive solely because of the limitations they have set up in their own minds. Nothing that I can do will change this. Only the men themselves can change it. My men began in exactly the same station in life which I occupied a few years ago. They have had the same privilege for personal advancement that I had. We all live in the richest and freest country in the world, where no man is limited except by his own mental attitude and his own desires. Take yourself, for example. I have placed in your hands the greatest opportunity any American writer has ever enjoyed. I am giving you free access to a lifetime of practical experience in the accumulation of wealth through the rendering of useful service. Within the next years, I will open doors for you that will lead you into the rich storehouses of experience of some of the most successful men this country has produced. You will have a great wealth of knowledge at your disposal. If you make the proper use of your opportunity, you can occupy more space in the world than any other philosopher who has ever concerned himself with the problems of human beings. Hill, Mr. Carnegie, Many people believe that the opportunities available to men who wish to gain financial independence are fewer now than when you began your career. Some people believe that you and other men of wealth practically monopolise the field of opportunity, that you will not give others a chance. Would you mind telling me what you think of this theory? Carnegie. I'm glad you used the term theory because the belief that there is any scarcity of opportunities in a country such as ours is nothing but pure theory. The truth is this: we have more opportunities in America for the making of fortunes in return for useful service than in all other countries combined. This is a new country. We are just now approaching an age in which we are destined to become the greatest industrial country on earth. Within the next few years, we shall see stupendous developments in the field of industry. Lack of opportunities in America? Why, man alive, don't you see that our only lack is going to be a shortage of imagination, self-reliance and initiative, which will be needed to man the future of this country? I have but little patience with the short-sighted person who sees no future in America. If you will analyse those who cry no opportunity, you will find that they are using this as an alibi for their own unwillingness to assume responsibilities and to use their minds. The time is at hand when the whole world will be turning to America for new ideas, new inventions, and new opportunities for skill and imagination. I see no less than 50 years of opportunity available to the young men of this country, every hour of which will give them far greater advantages than any I ever had. Men who complain of lack of opportunity remind me of the congressman who not long ago wanted to introduce a bill in Congress providing for the closure of a patent office on the grounding that there was nothing else to be patented. Now, I sincerely hope you will not become a victim of this short-sighted belief that this country has run out of opportunities. Hill. Mr. Carnegie, I'm sure your exceptional vision gives you still much more to say about the opportunities this great nation affords to the men and women willing to learn the rules of success, use them to play the game of life, and claim the prizes as they go along. You have expressed a strong, inspiring note of encouragement to the young men and women of this nation if they only have the imagination, self-reliance, and initiative to see and take advantage of the opportunities which this country affords them. Do you now wish to add anything to your statement of the hope of future achievements in America? Carnegie. Yes, right here I wish to lay down a challenge to you. I wish to impress upon your mind the fact that you have the greatest opportunity of any young man of this generation whom I know, because you are being coached and prepared to present to the people of this country a new philosophy of individual achievement which will inspire men and women in all walks of life to recognise and embrace this age of abundant opportunity. Your mission in life is that of helping to inspire the people with a new birth of the spirit of Americanism. My greatest prayer is that you may catch this vision as I see it, and in due time that you may inspire others with the same vision. The world of great opportunity is available now, as it has always been, only for those with great vision. If you lose yourself in an obsessional desire to make yourself useful to others, you will find yourself through the voluntary recognition of the good you are doing. There is nothing new about this thought. It is as old as the world. It will remain as long as civilization endures. I am stressing the thought because it should run like a golden cord as a binding force throughout the philosophy of individual achievements. Hill. I hope I have the strength of character to accept your challenge. I can only promise to use faithfully such talents as I may possess in carrying out your trust. I am only a young man, and my major asset is a keen thirst for knowledge and a willingness to pay whatever price is required to obtain it. Carnegie. In one sentence, you have described the greatest asset any young man can possess, a desire for knowledge and the willingness to earn it. If you write that sentence into your definiteness of purpose in life and never overlook its value, you are sure to occupy more space in American life than any other writer of this generation. Remember that a man's achievements correspond with unerring certainty to the philosophy with which he relates himself to others. If you follow through your willingness to give something in return for your knowledge you desire, you are certain to make yourself so useful to the world that it will be compelled to reward you in terms of your own choice. This is the spirit of true Americanism. Hill. Mr. Carnegie, you have made frequent reference to the term Americanism. Will you please give me a detailed analysis of what you mean by this term? I believe that altogether too many people skip lightly over the word Americanism without having a clear conception of all it means. Carnegie. That is an excellent suggestion, and I hope you will incorporate in the philosophy of achievement a full and complete analysis of Americanism so that others who are seeking an opportunity to attain financial independence on which our nation rests. All success begins with definiteness of purpose. Every person who seeks personal success in America should both understand and respect the fundamentals of Americanism. Those who neglect or refuse to give loyal support to the institutions of Americanism may unconsciously contribute to the downfall of these supporting pillars, thereby cutting the very foundation from under their own opportunities for personal success. It is obvious that no individual may enjoy permanent success if he is out of step with the forces which have given him his opportunity to succeed. Hill. You refer to supporting pillars of American institutions. Would you mind naming and describing these, Mr. Carnegie? Carnegie. I should be most happy to do so. The first of the major pillars which distinguish this country from all others is our American form of government. It was originally written into the Constitution of the United States, providing the fullest possible measure of the right to individual liberty, freedom of thought, freedom of speech, and the freedom of worship. Above all, freedom of individual initiative that gives to every citizen the privilege of choosing his own occupation and setting his own price upon his knowledge, skill, and experience. No other country in the world offers citizens such an abundant choice of opportunities for the marketing of their services as those provided under our form of government. Hill. Mr. Carnegie, you have named the first of the pillars underlying our great nation. Will you please go on now and tell me about number 2? Carnegie. Number 2 is our industrial system. With its matchless natural resources of leadership and raw materials, coordinated as it is with our American spirit of democracy and supported by our American form of government. So long as there is harmony and understanding and sympathetic cooperation between leaders of industry and the officials of our government, every citizen will benefit directly or indirectly by our expanding industrial system. This is definitely an industrial nation. Industry not only supplies a major portion of the income for men who work for wages, but it absorbs a major portion of the products of agriculture, and it is the major source of support for men and women who are in professional work. There is no way of separating Americanism from industry without destroying one of the strongest and most important of the pillars of Americanism. Hill, I sincerely hope the time will come when the leaders of government and the leaders of industry neglect or refuse to work in harmony towards a common end. It would impose economic difficulties on each and every one of us. What do you consider to be the next important pillar, Mr. Carnegie? Carnegie. Number 3 is our banking system, providing, as it does, the lifeblood which keeps our industrial system and our agriculture and our business and professional systems active and flexible at a cost that is not a burden to anyone. Understand the nature of the service being rendered by our banking system, and you will be forever done with the ignorant few who cry out against the imaginary sins of Wall Street. Every well-informed person knows that in this country we have a twin system of government, with a political division operating in Washington and a financial division operating in New York. When these two branches of our form of national life operate harmoniously, we have prosperous times. Moreover, we have the resources for both political and financial economy to compete successfully with any other country in the world. The banking houses are just as essential to the successful operation of our system of living as are the merchandising stores and business offices. As a matter of fact, no form of merchandising or business could be carried on successfully without access to a ready supply of cash or credit which the bank supplies. Hill. Well, Mr. Carnegie, your explanation of the importance of our banks will give many of us a different opinion of them. Are the banks the only financial aid to our economic system? Carnegie. No, there is another very important one. Number 4 is our life insurance system, serving as it does as the people's greatest national institution of individual savings and providing our economic system with a form of flexibility that would not be available through the banking system alone. No other American institution provides the people with a source of savings that gives the individual man protection for his family and at the same time releases his mind from worry in connection with the possibility of approaching old age and its economic uncertainties. The institution of life insurance is definitely a part of the fundamentals of America. Hill, your discussion of the 4 pillars you have mentioned, Mr. Carnegie, must give every American food for serious thought. Did you say there are 6 of these important differences between our nation and all others? Carnegie, indeed, there are 2 more. The 5th one is our national spirit of love for liberty and our demand for the privilege of self-determination as expressed by the pioneers in industry and government, and the national love of freedom of speech, thought and action, which were the distinguishing characteristics of all the great leaders produced by America in the past. Hill, and what is the 6th one, sir? Carnegie. The 6th is our national sense of justice, which inspires us to fight for the protection of the weak as well as the strong, and has never tolerated territorial annexation by conquest without adequate compensation. Under these 6 headings, you will find everything of major importance that distinguishes this country from all others. In presenting the philosophy of individual achievement, be sure to call attention to the fact that anything which weakens any of the 6 pillars of Americanism undermines correspondingly the whole of our national life. Be sure to emphasise also that it is not enough for an individual to refrain from doing or saying anything that would weaken these pillars, but it is the duty of every loyal American to defend these foundations against all who endeavour to weaken or destroy any portion of them. Hill. Mr. Carnegie, following your brilliant summary of the most distinguishing features of our nation, which guarantee our priceless individual liberties and freedom of opportunity for personal success, is there any special precaution you care to give concerning them? Carnegie. There is a growing tendency in this country for men with a radical trend of mind to find fault with our form of government, our industrial system, our banking system, and about everything else that represents the typical portion of our Americanism. They should not be permitted to destroy the world's greatest nation merely because we preach and practice the right of free speech in this country. The right of free speech does not carry with it a licence to label respectable men merely because they have been successful. Okay, the right of free speech does not carry with it a licence to libel respectable men merely because they have been successful. Since the beginning of civilization, wealth has found its way into the hands of men who think accurately, men with definiteness of purpose, men with keenness of imagination, and the initiative to translate imagination into useful service. It is this very truth that has led me to the belief that the very best method of distributing wealth is that of distributing the principles of achievement by which wealth is procured. Hill. Mr. Carnegie, you made mention of the great resources of this country. What do you consider to be the greatest of our national resources? Carnegie. In speaking of the great resources of this country, it should be kept in mind that the greatest of these is not the money in the banks, nor the minerals in the ground, nor the trees in the forest, nor the richness of our soil, but it is the mental attitude and the imagination and the pioneering spirit of the man who have mixed experience and education with these raw materials, thereby transferring them into various types of useful service for our own people and for the people of other nations. The real wealth of this nation is not any material, tangible thing. Our real wealth consists of the intangible power of thought, as it is expressed by our leaders who understand and apply the philosophy of individual achievement. It reflects itself in broader vision, wider horizons, greater ambitions, and initiative. Anyone who misses this truth will fail to understand why our country is the richest and freest in the world. Hill. Why do you place the principle of definiteness of purpose at the head of the list of the 17 principles of achievement, Mr. Carnegie? Carnegie. The principle of definiteness of purpose, obviously, is a necessity to all who succeed, since no one may achieve success without first knowing precisely what he wants. It may interest you to know that approximately 98 out of every 100 people are totally without a major goal, and it is significant that approximately the same percentage of people are regarded as failures. The principle of definiteness of purpose, to be of enduring value, must be adopted and applied as a daily habit. Absence of this habit leads to another habit that is fatal to success, and that is the habit of drifting. Hill, would you mind giving me your definition on the word success? Carnegie, my definition of success is this: the power with which to acquire whatever one demands of life without violating the rights of others. Hill, well, Mr. Carnegie, is it not true that success is often the result of luck? Carnegie, if you will analyse my definition of success, you will see that there is no element of luck about it. A man may, and sometimes men do, fall into opportunities through mere chance or luck, but they have a queer way of falling out of these opportunities the first time opposition overtakes them. A man may come in possession of opportunity by pull, but he can stay in possession of it only by push, and that calls for definiteness of purpose. Hill, Mr. Carnegie, in your definition of success, you used the word power. You said that success is achieved through the power with which to acquire whatever one wants. Carnegie, personal power is acquired through a combination of individual traits and habits, some of which will be explained in greater detail as we come to the other 16 principles of achievement. Briefly, the 10 qualities of personal power, which we call the 10-point rule of personal power, are these: the habit of definiteness of purpose, promptness of decision, soundness of character, intentional honesty, strict discipline over one's emotions, obsessional desire to render useful service, thorough knowledge of one's occupation, tolerance on all subjects, loyalty to one's personal associates and faith in a supreme being, enduring thirst for knowledge, alertness of imagination. You will observe that this 10-point rule embraces only the traits which anyone may develop. You will observe also that these traits lead to the development of a form of personal power which can be used without violating the rights of others. That is the only form of personal power anyone can afford to wield. And that's chapter 1 done, guys. Okay, so I will catch up with you soon where we will be moving on to chapter 2. Would you like to know what chapter 2 is called? It is called Use the Mastermind Principle. Okay, guys, I will catch up with you soon. Much love. Take care. Bye for now.